Thanks, Steve. 12:01 kickoff on Saturday against UMass. Mark Whipple's an outstanding offensive football coach. Coached in national football. It was his second stint at UMass. This is a football team that was a 10-7 game going in the fourth quarter down in the swamp against Florida, and led Mississippi State at halftime, a team that beat us. So great preparation from our guys this week. I thought we had a good open week. I kind of detailed that Sunday night on the teleconference there as far as our guys and how they approach the open week. I was very pleased with that. But we need to get back to Williams-Brice and play, and we're looking forward to getting in front of our fans. We need to be there early kick, and we're looking forward to it. So open up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. David out of town. Let's go somewhere else.
Where's David?
He's up at basketball, I believe. Media days for basketball.
Media days basketball, right? Good.
Punt return, tell me what you look for in a guy who you think will be an effective punt returner, not as much physically, but the ability to stand there and catch it with them coming in your face.
We've obviously had our struggles, but going back to spring, we're constantly putting those guys under duress. We catch punts every single day at every practice. So we go back and have, Brian McClendon does a great job coaching those guys. Obviously not what we want as far as the results that we've gotten, but as far as the different drills that we do, the things that I've seen and been exposed to, and Coleman Hutz, our special teams coordinator, and Brian, who's done this for a long time as far as coaching it. But, putting those guys under the breast, tracking the ball, understanding where the tip of the ball is, what the ball's going to turn over, or it's not going to turn over, it's going to dead flight. Catching the ball above our eyes as far as being able to see it in. We're coaching all of the right things. Sometimes it's a little different when you get out there and 11 guys are running at you. We do a lot of live work with those guys as far as guys covering kicks in practice. We always do it. We certainly have amped it up recently in the last 2-3 weeks with the issues that we've had. Somebody's got to have some guts to go field the ball and understanding if you do fair catch it that they can't touch you, but still understanding that you've got to be able to field the ball and create the vertical field position that we need to have.
Do you find that some guys throughout your career, not just specifically here, that some guys have that and some guys don't?
Yep. And you got to see sometimes in game day to find out exactly what you got, because we would never put a guy out there that hasn't caught it extremely well at practice, and that has happened in our situation and where I've been before. There have been some guys that they catch it extremely well at practice, and for whatever reason in the game don't field the ball as well. So we're continuing to work through that.
Let's go to the back of the room, Mike.
Coach, how much of the Jake Bentley talk is real? Could we see a new starter on Saturday, and what do you put the odds at? And if so, why didn't we see him earlier?
Well, again, we're making decisions what we think's best for our football team, and right now, leaving camp, Perry and Brandon were ahead of Jake. After training camp was over, and you continue to work through the season, we're not having the production we need to have offensively, and it's not all on the quarterback, But if you do, at each position, you can constantly evaluate. If you make a change, is it going to make our football team better? And we have a good plan heading into Saturday. Obviously, we're not going to disclose that till Saturday, but it's leaving training camp. Those guys were ahead of him. As we've continued to work and meet and practice, and the reps and continue to add up, we've tried to evaluate the situation and what's best for our football team. We're not going to make a change for sake of making change. That doesn't make any sense. We're going to make a change if we feel like it's going to help benefit our football team, and those are the decisions that we have to make as a staff.
Going back to the punt return question, is Fenton's ankle well enough to where he's in that mix again?
He is in the mix. Chris Lamons is back there. Brian Edwards, Keel Pollard, AJ's been back some. So we've got just a mixture of guys. But a lot of these, we've been repping all these guys all year. So it's not like we're just trying new guys and throwing new guys back there. A lot of these guys have been back. But Rashad was a guy that probably in an emergency could have played against Georgia. But he did not look good in pregame. But felt like if we needed to put him in, we're very short at corner. And Chris and Jamarcus played the whole game along when we bumped for matchup purposes inside Chris on McKenzie. We put Stephen Montack in the game at corner. If we had an emergency, Rashad probably could have played corner.
And is Debo not an option for punt return?
No, he's still back catching. Yeah, we got a bunch of guys.
A.J. Turner was just talking about to us a little bit ago about some of the things he was working on, and one of the things he was talking about, bull yards or dirty yards. How hard is it to teach that in practice, and what do you do to teach the guys to do that?
Well, we don't take to the ground in practice, so that's something that, running through contact is one of the evaluation tools you look at when you evaluate a player coming out of high school. What kind of bull yards, what we call is yards after contact, do they get? Does the pile move forward when they hit the pile? And that's something that I think Rico's done a really good job of running through contact, and AJ's continuing to work on that. But that's a huge part of it. There's no clean looks anymore in the run game. When you talk about wanting a clean run box and be able to get a hat, I mean, right now with defenses, that's hard to do. So you're gonna be contested in the hole a lot. You got to run through contact.
How did you spend your Saturday? And second part of the question is, do you normally encourage players to maybe get away, try to get out of town and see family, or just whatever they feel comfortable doing?
As far as the open week,
Yes.
I think everybody's different. I encourage our guys to decompress, get away from football. I didn't want them in the building unless they needed treatment. They need to get away from us a little bit, and so whether it's seeing family or whatever they want to do, everybody was back here on time at 4 o'clock, ready to go to get ready for UMass. As far as I worked most of the day Saturday.
Let's go back to the room.
Will, what was the biggest challenge facing Jake coming in as a freshman, and what's the biggest improvement in the areas that he's made so far?
Well, I think any freshman that comes in to fall camp that doesn't go through spring ball, obviously terminology you got to learn, tempo of practice, all of the things that are much drastically different from what they're used to. So regardless whether it's Jake Bentley or whoever it is, as a freshman, those are always the challenges that you go through. How quickly those guys adjust, how much do they study their playbook, how well do they catch on to the terminology. All of those things are things that every freshman works through.
Going off the bye week, a few of the players mentioned this being a fresh start. Have you seen that kind of mentality this week in practice?
Very pleased with the practice Sunday. I thought our guys approached, we gave objectives to our football team and offense and defense and special teams, things we needed to improve on. There's a lot, but I thought those guys have attacked, the issues that we've challenged them with very well. I thought Sunday we had a very spirited practice, and I thought we had a very workmanlike attitude today for a Tuesday practice.
Well, when you evaluated things last week, did you find that, hey, maybe things are closer, we're a little bit closer than it looked perhaps against Georgia? What did you uncover?
Well, I think the turnovers against Georgia in the field position were very critical. We did have some successful things going offensively at times. We got to stay on the field on third down. That's been after the Vanderbilt and Mississippi State games, third down has been an issue for our offense. And as much as anything, not being able to score points is not staying on the field. That's a huge issue. I think that I'm upbeat and encouraged because I think 70% of our receptions are by freshmen. 80% of our rushing yards are by freshmen. So there's a lot of encouragement as far as those guys are going to continue to improve and get better. Is it sometimes, get you a little upset about where things are? Certainly. But I also try to keep some perspective about where we are, and we're going to continue to improve. The effort has been outstanding. And other than I've said before, the Mississippi State game defensively in the first half, our guys play hard. Our guys have put ourselves in position, other than the Mississippi State game, to be a possession game at the end of the game to win the game. Now, again, we're not in it to just play close. We want to win games, and that's what I've challenged our guys about, really straining and focusing for those 6 or 8 plays whenever they come in the game to make a difference in those situations, that we need to win those games and coach better and play better in those situations. There's a lot of, considering our numbers offensively, I do feel like that there's some positives that moving forward.
Coach, when you look at the bye week, what were you most pleased with about your team? What were they able to accomplish maybe in the time off, and maybe what did you want to accomplish that maybe you didn't?
Well, I think we challenged them on our physicality, stopping the run and an ability to run the ball. At the end of the day, it comes back to toughness. And it's got to be a culture and a DNA within your program. So I changed some things up practice-wise. We've done more good-on-good work than we've ever done, which we do a lot anyways. But to be able to continue to look at fastball looks and play blocks and finish blocks and on both sides of the ball, the mentality and attitude of our players has been outstanding. They've accepted everything. There's not been any pushback. There's not, our guys go out and practice. So to me, that's very pleasing that there's a lot of belief in the room about what we're doing. We got to get some wins to go with that.
What kind of a role has Taylor Stallworth kind of grown into on this defensive line and in the defensive line room?
Taylor plays square on the line of scrimmage, which the good D linemen I've been around do. He plays square on blocks. He plays the guys lined up across from him, which seems to be really, really simple, but it's when you get a lot of moving parts, it's hard sometimes. He plays blocks extremely well. We need more guys like him inside to play blocks the way he plays blocks. He holds the point well on the double teams, and sometimes in our league you got 700 pounds double teaming you. To be able to sit, throw your hip into the double team and hold the point is what I call is hard to do, and he does that well. So we need to continue to have more guys like him play blocks well up front. He does a good job of that.
Coach, I know you've been stressing just being positive the last couple of weeks, but coming off a bye week, the offense, you guys go out there. What if you're a little slow? Because tendency sometimes when you come off a bye week, the offense can be a little slow. How do you keep those guys upbeat if it goes that way?
I think positive. I don't worry about it. That's what you just talked about.
But I mean, coming off a bye week.
I don't worry about it.
Okay.
I don't have time for it. I appreciate the question, though.
For defensive staff, how different is it preparing when you're not exactly sure who's gonna be at quarterback in a given week?
Well, it's hard because you got different skill sets for different people, and obviously it's going to predicate what you call in a game based on who's at quarterback. So you make them prepare for a lot of different looks, and you're going to rep more things at practice than you're going to call in the game anyways. But you're going to rep even more so when you're repping for multiple looks.
What have you seen out of Shameik Blackshear over the course of the year, both on the field and off the field, and how he's grown?
Really pleased with Shameik's approach and work ethic. Shameik went through a very tough time and missed a year of lifting. And that's really holding him back right now as far as holding the point. We talked about earlier, playing the blocks. Shameik runs extremely well and is going to be a really good football player. But when you miss that much time of lifting and strength, of just getting your body ready, and really more than anything, the grind of the season. Because the stronger your body is, the more you're able to withstand, and your endurance of the physicality of the season and the game, you're able to be more consistent with your play. And that's what's holding him back right now. It's nothing else. He's bright. He plays hard. He practices hard. He runs extremely well. We've got to get stronger. And he understands that and knows that, but his attitude's been great.
Coach, if you do wind up making a change at the quarterback position, what's the biggest upside with Bentley? And maybe besides some of the terminology, what are some things that he could improve on maybe over the next few weeks?
Well, who says we're making a change? So we'll see Saturday.
How many high school games were you able to get to during the open week, and how is it important for recruiting that the head coach is out on Friday nights?
Well, I think it's all based on personal, what you like to do. I love high school football. I love going to a high school game. I always like to see guys you're recruiting compete. I like to see their competitive edge. That's part of the evaluation. But I was able to see about 4 games this past weekend, see some more this week. But I think it's important, especially in the state of South Carolina, to get out and promote the game of football. And, I enjoy high school coaches. I enjoy being around the game, regardless of what level it's on. But that's something that I personally love to do. I love going out and recruiting and evaluating the guys and looking at, promoting our game of football.
Coach, what have you tried to address as far as your rush defense? Has it been just fine tuning, or have you seen a difference between night and day after a few days of going over it?
Well, it's doesn't happen overnight. I mean, just, playing blocks up front, playing double teams, playing slip blocks, having gap integrity through your defensive line and linebackers, your secondary fits. I mean, those are all things you've got to continually do to improve, to get better, and we have a long way to go. And that's a process that you've got to continue to rep, and sometimes it takes some time, and it's very frustrating at times from the standpoint of sometimes you don't get the results you want, but having done this before, you got to continue to stick your face in the fan and like it, and understand the 700-pound double team's going to happen, and you got to play the block and stay on the guard, and you can't let him slip up on the backer. I mean, there's just certain things that you have to rep over and over and over again, especially with a young player who has been better than everybody he's played against and doesn't understand why you got to keep the guard off the linebacker, because he's been able to backdoor it and make the play in high school. That's not the way it is in college. So those are things to me that you've got to continue to rep and rep and rep over and over and over again in order to have a good run defense. And it's not something we've been for a while here. So this is something that we've got to get better at, and we've been put in charge of doing that, and that's what we're going to do.
Will, is the prospect of bowl eligibility something you talk about with these guys?
Yeah, I talk to our guys all the time. Our seniors want to go to a bowl game, and that's very important for our program. But the most important thing is for our seniors. Yeah.
You've talked about some of the defensive things and all that, but with Darius English, what has been the area where he's progressed the most, and what is he doing to put himself in the position he is right now?
He practices extremely well. He practices at a high level. He can always working on pass rush, playing a block, setting the edge of the defense, which is in most situations what we're asking him to do. But situationally, he's been very good for us this year. Obviously, I don't know where he is in sacks and all that, but he's affected the quarterback in a lot of situations. A couple sack strips, but he's been very, very productive for us. But to me, it all goes back to practice. I mean, I see this guy. Again, like I said before, I didn't really know what we had coming out of spring. I didn't rep much. I didn't really know how much he would contribute for our football team. But I saw a guy in fall camp continue to rep, and the amount of turns and reps are accumulating to very, very good season for him right now. But he's been really good situationally for us.
At what point did you know that Kier Thomas would hold the rotation role he has, and how much do you feel like you've been able to get out of him?
Well, we've got a lot. I mean, Kier's been, here's a guy that, was when we recruited Kier. We started recruiting Kier a long time ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So he was about 220 then. He's about 270 right now. So his body has changed a lot. He's continued to, in a good way, continues to build girth. And, I always feel like, and I'm not saying that people can't do it, but the closer your position is to the ball, the harder it is to play as a freshman, because the game is bigger and it's much, much faster. It's much more violent. And that's why it's really hard for interior defensive linemen and offensive linemen to play as freshmen, because just the fast-moving parts of the game, and especially with the size, I think he's done a really good job. Is it what we want? Is it what he wants right now? No. But he's a guy that continues to progress. He continues to come out to practice the right way. He approaches things the way you're supposed to approach them. He's got a little bit of a mentality to him that I like for defensive players to have. He goes and competes. He's got a competitive edge about himself, and he's continued to improve.
Will, you mentioned how difficult it can be to prepare for an offense on the defensive side of the ball that has a question mark quarterback. What about for an offense that's preparing as well when there are questions at quarterback? Can that be a difficult thing for offensive players to handle as well?
Well, we don't have a lot of questions in the building right now.
Questions for Coach?
How much does losing Jonathan Walton change sort of the equation at linebacker? And have you guys been it seems like you guys have also been working some of the younger guys in more in recent games?
Right. John's played good football for us this year. It hurt us in the last ball game, taking him out of the run game. And, John's a thumper. He's a guy that when he hits you, he's there. He brings a little edge to our defense and how he plays. He plays the game the right way. Certainly losing a guy like John is not good for your run defense. But, T.J. Holloman's played all positions for us, Sam, Mike, and Will for us this year. Bryson Allen Williams could play both inside backer spots. T.J. Brunson and Sherrod Pittman could play both out inside backer spots. They're basically interchangeable for us in what we do. The Mike takes a little bit more of the Brunt lead plays more what we call the bubble. The Will plays more of the 40 backer behind the 3 technique when we're in a 4-down look. But, those guys are all continuing to improve. And, we've got to clean some fits up from our last ball game. But, whenever you lose a guy like John, it certainly affects you.
Kind of along those same lines, Lorenz Bryant, you touched on Sundays. He's still progressing as you'd like to see in practice?
Yeah, so Lorenz practicing well. He's playing Sam for us. He'll start Saturday at Sam. And, gives us another good athlete, a guy with some length on the edge to set the edge of the defense. And also special teams. We've really missed him on special teams in our first 6 games. Good cover guy, a guy that does a nice job in our return units as well. So excited to get Lorenz back out there. Yeah.
Have you guys as a staff talked at all about trying to get more wide receivers into the slot, maybe moving some of the guys, or is the depth not quite there for that?
No, I mean, again, it's about we're not going to try and make change for sake of making change. It's about what helps our football team. Hayden Hurst has played really well in the slot for us. Casey Crosby's done a nice job for us. I think at times it creates some issues for the defense to count whether or not we're going to be able to get in a 3-man blocking service with a tight end, or we could be in a 4 open set. But our slot production has been solid based on not having Debo and Brian Edwards for the majority of the season, which obviously has affected our entire offense. So certainly being able to move some guys inside that, obviously have a little more wiggle and speed to stretch the field vertically can help us, and that's something we're looking forward to.
Anything else for Coach?
All right. Thank you very much.